It begins with a sound, a final click of a lock, the rumble of a departing engine, the last footstep echoing down an empty street. And then, silence. A profound, unnatural quiet that settles over the concrete canyons and glass towers, a silence that holds the memory of millions of voices. This is the moment a city dies, the moment the last person leaves, and an entirely new chapter begins. It's a story not of human endeavor, but of relentless, patient reclamation. The story of what happens when we are gone. The first invaders are not grand or dramatic. They are the weeds, the seeds carried on the wind, finding purchase in the smallest cracks of pavement. Within a year, dandelions and resilient grasses push through asphalt, their green shoots a stark contrast to the gray uniformity of the streets. Nature, which had been held at bay for decades, or even centuries, by constant maintenance, now begins its slow, inexorable siege. What starts as a fissure in the sidewalk soon becomes a line of green, then a patch, and eventually a verdant carpet rolling over boulevards once choked with traffic. The wind, no longer just a nuisance whistling between buildings, becomes a courier, delivering soil and spores that will give rise to the next wave of life. Soon, the pioneers arrive. Ivy, tenacious and persistent, scales the glass and steel facades of skyscrapers, its tendrils seeking every joint and ledge. Within a decade, entire walls vanish behind a curtain of green. Larger plants follow. Saplings, taking root in the accumulated debris on rooftops and balconies, grow into young trees, their roots delving deep into the structure, prying apart mortar and concrete with patient, hydraulic force. The animal kingdom, too, senses the shift. Deer wander down deserted highways, their hooves clicking on the painted lines. Coyotes and foxes make dens in the hollow shells of suburban homes, and bears explore the ransacked aisles of silent supermarkets. Birds, no longer competing with the roar of the city, nest in the rafters of grand railway stations, their songs the new soundtrack of the urban wild. As nature ascends, the works of man begin to fail. The first to go are the most fragile elements. Water is the primary agent of decay. With no one to patch leaks, it pools on flat roofs, its weight eventually causing them to sag and then collapse, exposing the interiors to the elements. Rain and snow now fall directly onto office furniture and department store mannequins. The cycle of freezing and thawing widens every crack, shattering stone and spalling concrete. Rust, the slow fire of oxidation, consumes steel skeletons. Rebar exposed by crumbling concrete bleeds orange stains down support columns. Window panes, once gleaming, are shattered by wine-borne debris or the simple stress of a decaying frame letting the outside in. The city, once a symbol of permanence, reveals its inherent fragility. We have seen this happen before. The world is dotted with spectral monuments to human exodus. In Pripyat, Ukraine, abandoned in a matter of hours after the Chernobyl disaster, the iconic Ferris wheel stands frozen against the sky, a silent testament to a day that ended abruptly in 1986. Today, it is a city swallowed by a forest. Werewolves roam streets named for Soviet heroes. On the other side of the globe lies Hashima Island, Japan. Once a bustling coal mining community crammed onto a tiny rock, it was abandoned in 1974 when the coal ran out. Now, its concrete apartment blocks, known as Gunkanjima or Battleship Island, are being battered into ruin by sea salt and typhoons, a crumbling fortress of forgotten industry. The story repeats itself elsewhere. In Varosha, Cyprus, a once glamorous tourist resort has been sealed off and left to decay since the 1974 invasion. Its hotels and storefronts are perfectly preserved, yet slowly collapsing time capsule. And deep in the hills of Pennsylvania, the town of Centralia has been burning from within for over 60 years. A subterranean coal fire rendering the surface unstable and toxic. Its remaining streets buckle and steam, a ghost town sitting atop an invisible hell. Even modernity is not immune. In parts of China, vast, newly built ghost cities, complete with sprawling residential towers and ornate public squares, stand eerily empty. Testaments to economic speculation that outpace population. Pre-made ruins waiting for their inevitable decay. The timeline of this erasure varies dramatically. A modern city, built with steel-reinforced concrete and glass, might stand in a recognizable form for centuries. A skyscraper could remain a skeletal silhouette for 500 years or more, long after its inner floors have pancaked and its outer skin has peeled away. But 1,000 years from now, it would be little more than a strange, metal-veined hillock, its original form almost indecipherable. Brick and stone structures like those of ancient Rome might fare better, their core components lasting for millennia. But without constant maintenance, even these will eventually succumb to root systems, water, and gravity. Eventually, all that remains are the foundations, cryptic patterns on the forest floor, waiting to be discovered by future intelligence that might wonder what kind of creatures built such things. Beneath the surface, a different kind of collapse is underway. A city's lifeblood is its underground infrastructure, subways, sewers, and utility tunnels. When the power fails, the pumps that keep these networks dry fall silent. Groundwater, relentless and patient, begins to seep in. Subway tunnels transform into elongated, subterranean lakes, their dark waters preserving train cars in a murky tomb. Utility corridors flood, accelerating the corrosion of pipes and cables. The very foundations of the buildings above become saturated, destabilized from below. The city doesn't just crumble from the top down, it is also swallowed from the bottom up, its hidden anatomy succumbing to a slow, cold drowning. Why do some places, like Pompeii, freeze in time, while others seem to vanish almost without a trace? The answer lies in the manner of their death. A sudden, catastrophic burial by volcanic ash can create an anaerobic seal, preserving a moment for eternity. In contrast, a city in a temperate, wet climate is subjected to a constant, aggressive cycle of growth and decay that actively dismantles it. A city in an arid desert might be scoured by sand and wind but remain structurally intact for far longer. Its decay measured in erosion rather than biological reclamation. The environment is the final arbiter of a city's legacy. It determines whether it becomes a pristine archaeological treasure or is simply digested back into the soil from which its materials were first taken. Through the unblinking eyes of satellites, we can watch this process unfold over decades. Time-lapse data from services like Google Earth reveals the steady greening of abandoned districts, the slow blurring of sharp, man-made lines. On the ground, footage from urban explorers provides a more intimate, visceral perspective. We see the peeling paint in a derelict hospital, the schoolbooks scattered on a classroom floor in Pripyat, the vines creeping across a slot machine in an abandoned casino. These images, collected over the years, form a mosaic of decay, a visual chronicle of our absence. They are reports from the front lines of a war that humanity has already lost, simply by walking away. And in that loss, we see a powerful, humbling truth. We are not masters of this world, merely its most recent and most disruptive tenants. The silence that follows us is not an ending. It is simply the world breathing a sigh of relief and beginning the long, slow work of forgetting we were ever here at all.